Victory.
All right, you can hear us well? Looking at all the orange headsets. So if you're orange, you're stage 3, you're at the right spot. Thanks everyone for joining. So we'll be talking a little bit about PepsiCo's S4 migration journey together with SNP and us PwC. So before we jump into it, maybe I'll give Craig a minute to introduce himself.
Yeah, just real quick, Craig Dalziel from PepsiCo, been there 23 years, lead our S4 transformation.
Yep. My name is Philip Schumacher. I've been doing SAP for about 24 years as well, based in California, but started my career not too far away from here in Luxembourg, actually. Nice to meet everyone. All right, so 3 topics we're going to cover today. First of all, Craig's going to talk a little bit about Pepsi as an organization and their SAP footprint in general. I'll then talk quickly about PwC and the migration program and journey that we started. And then at the very end, we'll wrap it up, talk a bit about SNP and how we came to collaborate with them. So with that, Craig, hand it over to you.
Thanks, Philip. A little bit about us. We're two major categories of iconic brands, snacks and beverages. Many of you know us around the world in different brands. $92 billion of revenue, over 300,000 employees, and operate in more than 200 countries. So think big, complex, difficult, lots of data, lots of things going on somewhere around the world every day. And think also 5-cent product, 10-cent product, how many different finished goods we have to sell to hit $92 billion of revenue. So that's the background on us.
The product being consumed 1 billion times a day, that's quite an impressive number.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Now, I think you guys are more interested in our SAP ecosystem. So this is, I'm going to step back. This is, I think of it in 3 buckets. We are, from seed to shelf, running something in SAP. So whether it be an agro solution, record to report, manufacturing, supply chain planning, trade promotion planning. Neil, how are my slides? Good? All right. Doesn't matter, all on SAP. And I think running MDG from a master data governance perspective, we're getting a tremendous amount of value. If you look at across our ecosystem, 800 different SAP instances, about 170 production instances of an SAP product somewhere, whether it be Ariba, whether it be SuccessFactors, IBP, S4, PIPO, you name it. So I'm keeping in sync 170, 180 production systems every day. Takes a PhD. A lot of legacy systems, 7,000 interfaces, you can see the number. But we are in 3,000 legacy apps. So it's really key when you look at our ecosystem that from the process may cross several different systems, but we need to make sure trucks are going out the door every day. And then you look at the products. If SAP is selling it, we got it somewhere. We've got it multiple times somewhere. It truly is running our business. When I think about our countries, every country except for Turkey, which we're moving to SAP, Belarus, Ukraine, some of the stans, and Armenia, I think is the last one, are running SAP. Key to our footprint, planning analytics, back end and core is we've got SAP data to drive our key business processes. And we also have payroll. So payroll is also running our SAP. So that's kind of the ecosystem. One more maybe. Next slide.
Next one, yep.
This kind of tells you 2 more, that's right. Our footprint. So the dark blue is a production instance and the light blue is all of our testing systems, et cetera. So we've got, we're organized regionally. When we say legacy, that's ECC, by the way. So anything that says legacy is an ECC instance. Anything that's PGT, PepsiCo Global Template, is an S4 instance. So running 2 S4 instances and multiple instances of ECC. And these ECC is where we'll get to from a data migration standpoint and a blue field, brown field approach. And the next slide is kind of, it's not perfect, but it's got a lot of detail on it, but it thinks it describes their entire program on a page, which is the left-hand side is S4, and S4 is a big transformation from Pepsi Foods North America, Pepsi Beverage North America. Think of two Fortune 50, Fortune 100 size companies, 20 billion size plus, operated on their own for decades, brought them into one S4 instance and forcing them to work together. That's the foundation for the next level of transformation.
I think I'll click, it has some animation too.
Oh, it's got some animation.
There we go.
There you go. So today we're running on an S4 instance in Americas, and there are a few markets like UK, others running as well. That left side is transformation. Right side is where we're going to start to talk about today, which is we made a decision with our board. We can only handle so much transformation. Keep the energy on North America. That's where we make a lot of our money. Drive transformation. The rest of it, migrate first, transform later. So that is where we came in and connected with PwC. IBM was also a big player in helping us lay our strategy and said, hey, how do we execute migration as fast and cheap as possible? And that's where SNP, SmartShift, and PwC came into play. So we were going to do instance to instance. There is no transformation happening on the right. And the idea is to go as fast as possible so we can enable transformation as phase 2.
Correct.
So I think that's the end of of my section. And I will chime in how we engage PwC and SNP in our approach.
Perfect. So Craig talked a little bit about PepsiCo as an organization and also the SAP footprint. So now let's talk a little bit about the migration approach that we took. Again, just to explain, North America going through a big greenfield initiative, rest of the world, the other sectors, it's a little bit of a different story. It's a migration. But before we go there, just wanted to spend a little bit of time about the PwC history we have with PepsiCo. So in fact, it's a 20+ year long history, and some of you may know PepsiCo is a long-standing customer of SAP. We've been around since their initial, what was called One-Up implementation. I myself was there 2010, 2011. But our tale with Pepsi goes around 4 different aspects. We've been doing a lot of controls, security work since the early 2000s. We then went into some specific functional support. We did trade promotion support, tax support. And for us, an inflection point has come in 2023 when we became the SI for Frito-Lay North America. So those are the blue dots you see here. And then later on PQGC, which is their Quaker, Gatorade, and corporate business. And so again, the topic for today is what you see here in yellow, which are the migration initiative. One thing to highlight, I think we spend quite a bit of time doing an assessment. We'll talk about that on the next slide. How do we actually go about the migration? What does it take? What's the scope? Who should go first? Who should go next? So really making sure that we have a sound plan set up. And we're now at a point where we kicked off 2 of those sectors. One here is MENA Plus, which is the Middle East. And just recently, about a month ago, we kicked off LATAM. And again, we're helping Pepsi in that endeavor. So some of you may be already running a migration. Some of you may be done. Some of you may be looking at a migration. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to quickly talk about how do you go about assessing what work it takes. And we have a methodology at PwC that goes across 4 different levels. Call it. It starts off very technical. We're doing a technical readiness check. On here you see there's a series of SAP reports you can run. There's the ATC report, readiness check. I'm sure you heard about those. What you can do then, you can complement that with programs that we as an SI can run. We have a journey guide. We have a platform analyzer. But basically, it's a quick check in the beginning, making sure if you're an ECC customer, yes, we can migrate, and get an initial sense of the scope. How much code has to be cleaned up? How many functionalities are going to change? So that's level 1. What we do then in a level 2, we call it a techno-functional assessment. We look at different areas, as in the architecture, infrastructure. Are you also moving to the cloud at the same time? Are you staying on-prem or not? Looking at data volumes to be translated. Security controls, custom code. How much custom code has to be cleaned up? How many integrations? And a big part here is the functional areas and business processes that have to change. So one of the things we feel proud about, we came up with a new term called a KMD. So I think a lot of you guys are familiar with KDDs, people coming from the greenfield implementation, sorry, key design document. But we said at Pepsi, this is a migration. We're not supposed to be designing unless we have to. We're supposed to mitigate. If you have to fix a functional process, then you can go ahead and fix it. So what we have a KMD, key mitigation decision library. We know certain processes are going to change. Credit management, we all know, changes significantly from ECC to S4. So how do you mitigate that? It's not about how you want to design it, it's how do you want to mitigate it. It's part of the migration. So that's what you do at level 2, get your techno-functional assessment in. Then of course there's the outside of IT reality. So we call that an operational financial assessment. What competing initiatives may be happening at an organization, dependencies, trade-offs. If you're migrating many boxes, like in the case of Pepsi, we have 6, there could be others with many, many more. A question could be, how much revenue are you willing to migrate on one and the same weekend over? How much revenue are you willing to put at risk during a conversion? So we'll look at those aspects at level 3. To, at the end of the day, come up with a migration archetype. How are we going to migrate? What sectors, what boxes go first? Who comes next? Like I mentioned, what is the roadmap? And coming up with a detailed estimate. Since we ran those scans in the beginning, we really know what code has to be cleaned up. We know what functional areas have to be remediated, so we can really come with a specific estimate. So that was just meant to give you an idea of what it takes to get ready for a migration, but there's a call it sound methodology that one can apply to make sure that we know what work we're facing.
Yeah, I think for me, I've been doing this for decades, and you're doing these green fields, and you don't have exactly the scope. You know the scope, but you know it's going to change. I think what PwC brought to the table and the learnings are, this is a data-driven, tools-based analysis. So we knew, we bucketed into 3 or 4 buckets. How many KMDs? I mean, 23 KMDs to fix for a Middle East, North Africa is not something scary. We knew what they were, we get ahead of it. Second was the custom code. We ran the analysis with SmartShift, who's also presenting around here, and nailed what we needed to migrate, not needed to migrate. We assumed 85% automation in terms of fixes for custom code. We're at 95%, right? So that was great. And on the data side with SNP, knew which migrate wasn't going to fix, what data we had to add to, so it's a lot easier to sell a project and a program when you can just point to data in terms of how to migrate. And they did a great job bringing these tools. So.
Correct, agree, it's fact-based. It's not just a couple of interviews that you take. So we came up with what you see here. So it's just to give you an idea for the PepsiCo program. So it's about 6 ECC boxes, but they pretty much correspond with different sectors. You see your usual Middle East, you see LATAM in here, APAC, Europe. And an interesting thing to note here is, so some of them are going in parallel. We want to maximize the workload that's happening across different teams on the Pepsi side, with SIs, with other partners. Another thing to highlight here is you see different shaded blues. So we always start with an acceleration phase. Now what's an acceleration phase is we set up the infrastructure, we do 1 round of code remediation, one round of data migration as well, to get the initial setup activities out of the way so that when you start the actual project, which is the different blue, you're off and running. The other thing you see here, it's an interesting thing that people don't always realize. Once we get to S4, we won't be done. There's a light blue, it's a pretty large box as well. What does that stand for? There's what we call non-discretionary set of initiatives you need to run. Other tools are going to be running out of support. In the case of Pepsi, they're a big DSD, direct store delivery solution user. They could develop it with SAP. That has to be replaced. Warehouse management has to go to EWM. So unfortunately, there's not too much time to breathe after you go live, and you got to go into your next wave. You want to chime in?
No, I just think what was important here is everyone was focused on transformation. And like when working with SAP and others, when you look at our international business, it's still $40 billion. We're still bigger than a Diageo or a Mondelez, but we're over on that side. So we needed to make sure we had the right attention. And then Data size, you can see 60 terabytes, also big when you look at the different instances. So this is not a, this
Correct.
isn't like the rest of everything else. This is still very, very important to us. And I think things that resonated well, they're about a 12-month project, 12 to 15 months. That seemed right. I think you'll cover it or you cover it. What we're doing is, when you look at who's delivering this, 80%, we call it our migration delivery team, 80% of that team is out of our Hyderabad center. So we are maintaining, we got a market enablement team, which is around 20%, and 80% out of India. So SAP, all our other providers have got engagement with India. We've got about a 900-person PepsiCo team that's doing other things as well, based there that we're leveraging. And that's how we're unlocking speed, and that's how we're unlocking costs. So.
That's right, that's right. And it's truly a big scale. I mean, 30,000 users, 60 terabyte in database. It's a big.
And it's still long, because it's with our regression. You mentioned our DSD model times 20 countries in LATAM, and we still have 30,000 test cases from a regressions test standpoint. So that's a long piece of the calendar.
It is.
So.
It is. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the guiding principles. And the first one is the most interesting and the most important one. Why not as is? So I'm gonna look at the orange headsets now. So who's a customer? Raise your hand if you're a customer. All right, keep your hand up. Raise your hand if you're a partner, an SI. So a lot of hands. All right. So what we typically see, if you're a customer or an SI, you love new technology. All right. If there's a newer, better way of doing something, that's what you want to implement. This is a migration. And you saw there's going to be an evolve phase later on. What really took us time is to tell people, hey, if it does not break, we're not allowed to fix it or improve it. Sounds very simple, but difficult to implement, because both customers as well as SIs were just excited by what we can fix. And it really takes time. And by the way, once you get to the business and you tell them, well, we're putting the same system and we're not really changing all that much, it's not coming quite yet, it takes a while to embrace that. But I think, and I've done a couple migrations now, that tends to be most difficult part, is really making sure you stick to only fixing what you have to fix. Now, why do you do that? You do it for the other two boxes, right? You want to be as timely and cost efficient as possible and minimize the risk. There's already enough going on with a migration, as big as it is. Keep your transformation evolve phase for after go live.
Yeah, as a leader, I love this mantra, right? So I could just point to it. We are not touching this unless it breaks.
Correct.
And having put all these systems in the first time, I know they work, even as is. And we're what, 12 months into this,
yes.
and we've had one change, and not even that came through the process
correct.
the right way.
So
We literally are sticking to scope, which just makes it a lot easier to manage implementation. So.
Makes it easier. And you know what breaks from the scans that we mentioned earlier, so it's very precise. You'll know what you'll have to fix. All right, there's a lot going on here. Not going to cover every single box, but I think it shows you a typical migration timeline. I think a lot of us have done greenfields, and again, the migration typically is different. On top, there you see there's some overlap. You have your prep, design, remediation, mock, deployment, and hypercare, go live. One of the things we wanted to call out here is the purple boxes, which are the data runs. And you'll see there's a total of 5+1 mock. Sometimes we have people say, hey, wait a minute, I'm migrating, it's like an iPhone app. Why doesn't it just upgrade overnight? No, it takes time. Why does it take time? You see here, we're going to be migrating 5 times before we do the production cutover. There's a sandbox migration, there's 3 mocks to do testing, there's 2 sits, there's a UAT, there's a dress rehearsal, and then there's the actual cutover. Why is that? You want to make sure that when you do it for real on that weekend, that it goes well. It's practicing like doing a rehearsal for a theater play. That's really what it takes. But one of the points we wanted to call out here is you see SNP all along the way. For every mock cycle, you see them there. They're not just in and out. No, they're there from day one of the initiative all the way to making sure that go live goes well. So one thing we wanted to call out here. Anything else particular?
No, nothing.
So if anyone has questions on a typical migration plan on a plate, feel free to come and see us. All right, interesting. The theme of the conference is stronger together, right? And working together. And this really calls out, I think I've been doing this again for 25 years, and there were years where it was SAP you would buy your license, SAP goes away, you work with your SI, and that's the only person you're working with for the next 2 years to go live. Well, I think in the migration world, we live in a more of an ecosystem of people. Want to call out a couple. So there's Microsoft. So we're moving the ECC environment or S4 to be onto the Azure cloud. SAP obviously providing the software. SNP along the way with data migration. But we also have SmartShift. Craig mentioned it. They're here on the other stage as well to help with code remediation, automated code remediation, and very promising results, even higher degree of automation than we were expecting, and then we are helping from a PwC perspective as the overall SI and really helping orchestrate all those parties. I don't know if you want to say.
No, we're, you want to ask your questions later, we're a culture of affiliation. So bringing these 5 parties together, making sure we actually meet in person as a kickoff and work together. So SmartShift and SNP were new to us, so we went through a little bit of a dating phase, and I think we turned the corner and we're rocking and rolling now. So it's been a fun group of people.
Correct. So that was a little bit about the migration initiative. Now, why SNP? And I can kick it off, but then obviously, Craig, you can chime in as well. So first of all, I love this view. That's something we use for the product as well. A really simplified view of how does a migration work. You set up the environment, you remediate the solution, migrate your data, you test, and you're ready to go. It's a very nice.
The business understands this.
If you want to simplify, that's your view. And we squared the data migration, talking about SNP, and we were along for the ride with Pepsi when they looked at different alternatives. And those, I would say, are the 3 key areas that were looked at. The first one, you'd start with capabilities, right? What are you looking for from your data migration capabilities? And aside the obvious migrating the actual data, we wanted to highlight what else are you looking at? Well, you're looking at reporting, making sure you can report on how the data was migrated, did we migrate it well? Transformation, maybe a little bit less in Pepsi's case, but those providers have technology that allows you to say, hey, this field was called A in the old system, you're going to call it 1 in the new system, right? What kind of capabilities do we have to here? Validation, very important, right? I want to make sure that data was migrated well. Dual maintenance capabilities and flexibility. So I would say, needless to say, right, all those capabilities are existing with SNP. That was the first layer, call it. The second layer is very interesting, the engagement model. I think there's 2 big types of engagement models with software companies. Either a software company says, hey, here's my software, you customer, you go run with it, you pick your SI, go do your thing. The other model, which is maybe a little bit more recent, is you only get my software if you work with us as a service provider, right? That's the other model. I think, and Craig, you can chime in, SNP was really flexible in allowing kind of a little bit of both, or maybe allowing to start in one model and shifting towards another model as you see fit. But one of the things, and we know from other customers as well, is like SNP is really flexible on that node.
Yes, so for us, there were a few things why we chose SNP. You saw the slide that had the different, had LATAM and MENA, had 5 or 6 different projects. One was, this was not a one and done, right? So this is like a lot will do one migration. Pfizer, I know, had a big one. Another, then you're done, and then what's next? So we needed to make sure.
You go back there.
Our partner gave us the flexibility, gave us the keys to some sort. I could build the capability internally in Hyderabad or wherever, and then over time, shift more of the brain power from SNP to PepsiCo. They have delivered to that promise. Training, set up training our people, partnering our people, still at the table, but over time may wean themselves off a little bit. And that's the type of flexibility we needed to deliver the program, number one. And SAP's got a tool, the SMLT, or whatever the tool is, also a great tool, but they provide it as a service. And ours was, we wanted the keys, we wanted to own it. So that was the big differentiator. 2, partner with us around the world, have a scale to engage with us in LATAM, engage with us in the Middle East, engage with us in Europe. And 3, the product itself. It's funny. I've got a team around the world that likes to get their hands dirty, will fix things that people say can't be fixed. And when they got into the tool in SNP, they're like, all right, We got to work a little bit on the data validation side, but other than that, this is going to work for us at our scale. So that was also a big win, and been refreshing, to be honest with you, when you go through these. So.
Yep, great. Thanks for chiming in.
And obviously, cost is important.
Yes.
Because LATAM is not it's an emerging markets. India's emerging markets, and someone's got to be flexible enough to price with us at that level. So.
Yep, perfect. Thanks, Greg. And then last but not least,
this is the last slide, right?
That's the last slide. Yeah. Last slide. I think you all heard a lot about Kiana, so we wanted to call out, obviously there's a lot of different applications, the foundation part, the actual move part, and the manage part, and we highlighted in yellow here where we're using SNP functionalities at SAP, at PepsiCo, sorry, today. Obviously it's the actual move, you see the cloud move here, but it's also already used for data archiving, for example, and I think we didn't touch on that quite on the other slide, but I think another reason why SNP is, there's a lot of other applications that can be used beyond the actual migration in of itself. You'll have a platform to
Yeah, we're actually, if you think of all those systems you mentioned before with the 150 plus production systems and 800 test systems, I called Camila on the phone, and I was like, this is a real opportunity. We want to do a POC on testing and how we can use selective data to actually manage our test environments and refreshing our test systems. I have an update next week, but I know the proof of concept went well, and we're actually going to do it in July in our first system refresh. So there are the concept of selected data. We've introduced we've done some acquisitions lately. Maybe it's there. Looked like the crossover tool was something new in terms of outside of SAP. So actually, how you can get these systems and refresh these systems is another true unlock. That would be massively beneficial. I mean, days matter when it comes to systems refreshes. So,
that's right.
Yeah, looking forward to the continued partnership, and yeah.
Same here. So that was it. So I have another fun one for you. So if you can read the disclaimer that's on here, just come and find me, because I haven't found many be able to read all of that. But
is that yours? It's not mine.
That's ours. That's ours. That's a PwC one. But joke aside, I think anyone who's got a question. So there's two opportunities. We'll be hanging out next to the theater right now, and then we'll also be at the PwC booth at around 3 o'clock, right, Sven? Around 3 o'clock. So anyone has questions, feel free to come and find us.
Yeah. One last comment. We're on time on everything. So we're progressing well and looking good. So
awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everyone for your attention. Thank you.